The space station hummed with life, a constant rhythm of moving feet, chattering voices, and distant mechanical noises. Ships of all sizes docked and departed, leaving trails of glowing energy in the void beyond the observation windows. To many, it was just another day, but for some, this station was a crossroads of fate, where alliances could be formed or broken in the blink of an eye. In one corner of the observation lounge, a figure sat alone. Princess Liara of the Zelthari Empire, wrapped in a flowing robe of deep blue and silver threads that caught the soft light, gazed out at the stars. Her large luminescent eyes reflected the streaks of passing ships, yet her face was calm, almost unreadable. Around her, dozens of other beings mingled, laughed, and whispered, but no one dared approach. It was not fear exactly. It was something subtler, a sense that Liara's presence was untouchable, like a distant star that one admired but could never reach. Stories about the Zelthari circulated on the station, that their culture was inscrutable, their customs rigid, and their patience thin. Everyone knew it was better to admire the princess from afar. Yet today, a human engineer named Alex Rains noticed her. He was not supposed to be looking at anyone, really. His shift had just ended, and he had been walking past the lounge to grab a cup of synthetic coffee, when something about Liara caught his attention. Maybe it was the way she sat perfectly still, or the quiet gravity she carried without trying. Maybe it was the subtle loneliness that clung to her, unnoticed by everyone else. Alex was a human through and through, tall, lean, and covered in a light smudge of oil from the engine room. His jumpsuit was practical, worn in places, and his hands were strong from years of handling machinery. But despite appearances, Alex had a quiet confidence. He did not need to announce himself. He observed, he understood, and he acted when it mattered. Without a second thought, he walked over and sat down beside her. Liara's eyes flicked toward him, a hint of surprise crossing her otherwise composed face. It was so sudden, so ordinary, and yet so unlike the usual interactions she had with beings from other worlds. No fanfare, no bowing, no formal speech, just a human sitting calmly beside an alien princess. For a moment there was silence. The lounge continued its low hum of conversation, but here time seemed to slow. Liara tilted her head slightly, studying him. His gaze was steady, unafraid, and he offered her nothing but the presence of another being sharing the same space. "I suppose you're the engineer," Liara said finally, her voice soft, melodic, but measured. She did not smile, did not gesture. She simply spoke. Alex shrugged lightly, leaning back in the chair. "Maybe," he said. "Maybe just someone who notices when others are left alone." Her eyes widened slightly, almost imperceptibly, but she said nothing. The statement was simple, yet it carried weight, something rare in a world full of noise. Around them, other beings whispered. Some glanced over in curiosity, others in disapproval. "Who does that?" one diplomat muttered. "Sit next to the princess like it's nothing?" But Alex ignored the whispers. He sipped his coffee slowly, letting the quiet stretch between them. Liara, despite herself, found the silence comfortable. No one expected her to be so approachable, yet here she was, sharing a space with someone who did not flinch at her presence. Minutes passed. Outside, a transport shuttle docked, its engines humming. The sound was faint but steady, a reminder that the station never truly slept. Liara's gaze drifted back to the stars, her mind wandering to distant planets and political pressures she had no desire to confront today. Yet beside her, Alex remained still, as if offering a small island of calm in a sea of chaos. Finally, she spoke again, softer this time. "Most humans would not do this." Alex tilted his head, a small grin tugging at the corner of his mouth. "Most humans don't notice the quiet," he replied. "Or maybe they just don't care enough to sit down and pay attention." Liara considered this. She had encountered humans before, always in diplomatic halls or formal settings. They were loud, eager to impress, or desperately trying to prove themselves. Rarely had one been so unobtrusive, so unassuming, and yet so present. It was refreshing. A sudden alert from the station's central system beeped softly. Alex glanced at his wrist display, noting the report of a minor power fluctuation in one of the docking bays. He raised an eyebrow. "I should probably check that," he said casually. Liara looked at him, a flicker of something unreadable in her eyes. "Then go," she said, "but thank you for sitting." Alex nodded, standing. "No problem," he said simply. He gave a small wave, the kind that required no ceremony, no words beyond themselves. Then he walked away, leaving Liara alone, but she did not return to her former stillness entirely. Something had shifted. As Alex moved toward the engineering bay, he noticed that others were staring. Not at him exactly, but at the connection he had made without effort. The station was full of political games, social hierarchies, and unspoken rules. Yet here a human had done what no one dared. He had bridged a gap without a word, without a display of power or status. Liara, meanwhile, remained in her seat, her fingers lightly brushing the edge of the table. She had never been approached like that before. Her attendants were trained to hover, to anticipate her needs, to create a perfect illusion of accessibility while keeping everyone at a distance. Alex had none of that. He had simply sat. For the first time in what felt like ages, Liara allowed herself to relax, even just a little. She wondered about this human, his life, his experiences, the way he saw the universe. Most of her species were taught to be cautious, to measure every action and word. Humans were unpredictable, but perhaps that unpredictability held a value her people often overlooked. In the days that followed, the story of the human engineer who had sat beside the silent princess began to spread quietly through the station. Some laughed, some shook their heads in disbelief, but a few noted the courage it took. Not the courage of weapons or authority, but the courage of kindness, attention, and presence. Alex returned to his work, repairing conduits, calibrating energy matrices, and ensuring the station ran smoothly. He did not think about fame or recognition. His satisfaction came from a job well done, and the quiet knowledge that he had done something meaningful without needing to announce it. Liara, on the other hand, found herself returning to the observation lounge more often. Not always when he was there, sometimes she was alone, but the memory of his quiet defiance lingered. It was a reminder that not all beings followed the rigid expectations of their roles. Some simply acted with integrity, observation, and courage, and that could be far more powerful than any declaration. And in the quiet corners of the station, as stars streaked past the observation windows and the hum of machinery filled the air, a connection was formed, a bridge between two very different worlds. One was shaped by tradition, politics, and careful calculation. The other by curiosity, skill, and human empathy. Neither spoke much, yet each understood in small ways the potential for something extraordinary to grow. Liara did not yet know what the future held, nor did Alex. But in that simple act, sitting beside her without a word, he had broken the first barrier. And in a universe as vast and unpredictable as theirs, that first step was often the hardest, the most daring, and sometimes the most important. For now, they remained separate yet bound by a quiet understanding. And as the stars shone beyond the station walls, the station itself seemed to pause, acknowledging that perhaps in the silence between beings, something remarkable could begin. The next morning, the station was alive with a sense of urgency. Alarms and notifications buzzed quietly through the corridors, a reminder that even the most organized spaceports were vulnerable to technical problems. In the heart of the station, Alex Raines strode confidently through the engineering bay. He moved with purpose, examining energy conduits, power grids, and diagnostic panels. Today's task was routine, or at least it should have been. But routine rarely stayed routine in a station that hosted representatives from dozens of worlds. A sudden surge in the main docking bay had caused a temporary blackout, stranding several small transport vessels. Any delay could mean conflict, missed deliveries, or worse, damage to ships carrying diplomats or supplies. Alex knelt beside a panel, tools in hand, and began diagnosing the problem. Sparks flickered from a broken connector, the smell of ozone rising slightly in the air. As he worked, he noticed someone standing at the entrance. Princess Liara, once again alone, watched him. Her movements were measured, her expression calm, but Alex sensed her curiosity. She had returned to the lounge after breakfast, avoiding the crowds that usually followed her. Today, however, she had come to the engineering bay, drawn perhaps by the quiet confidence she had seen yesterday. Alex did not look up. "Busy morning," he said without turning. "Looks like the docking bay is acting up again." Liara's eyes flicked toward the panel. "Can you fix it?" she asked softly. "I can," Alex replied. His hands moved quickly, connecting wires, recalibrating energy flows, and rerouting power. "It's a small surge, nothing serious. But if we don't stabilize it quickly, a few ships could be damaged. Liara stepped closer, careful not to disturb his work. She was used to commanding armies, fleets, and entire planets' worth of influence, yet here she was, quietly observing a human engineer. It was strange, even thrilling. She had never seen someone work so calmly under pressure, so confident without needing to boast. Minutes passed. The diagnostic lights blinked in rapid succession, and a low hum filled the bay as energy flowed through the repaired circuits. Alex wiped his hands on a cloth, then looked up at Liara. "There, that should hold for now," he said, his voice steady and matter-of-fact. Liara tilted her head, impressed despite herself. "You make it look easy," she said. He shrugged. "Experience. And attention to detail. Most problems can be solved if you take the time to notice what's really happening, not just what's obvious." Something about that struck Liara. She was used to people rushing through tasks, relying on status or expecting others to solve problems for them. Alex, however, seemed to see everything, understand everything, and act accordingly without arrogance, without expectation of reward. "You notice a lot," she said softly. "I try to," he replied with a small grin. "It helps me avoid mistakes, and sometimes it helps others too." For the first time, Liara felt a sense of ease with someone who was not from her world. She could ask questions without fear of judgment, without needing to maintain the walls of royal formality. It was liberating, even comforting. Suddenly, the bay's alert system blared. Another surge was detected, this time in the auxiliary docking ports. Alex's expression tightened slightly, but his hands did not hesitate. He moved quickly, explaining as he worked. "If we reroute power through these secondary conduits, it will stabilize the systems. But it will require manual recalibration. I could do it alone, but..." He paused, glancing at Liara. "I could use an extra set of hands." Liara's eyes widened. "You want me to help?" Alex shrugged. "You don't have to, but it might be easier if we work together." A spark of excitement lit within Liara. She had never been asked to participate in such a practical, hands-on task. Diplomacy often involved words, gestures, and appearances. This was real, tangible, and it mattered. She nodded. "Then let's do it." The two worked side by side. Liara followed his instructions carefully, connecting wires, adjusting circuits, and observing his techniques. Alex spoke little, but when he did, it was precise and helpful. "Turn the knob slowly. That's it. Good. Now stabilize the output before you engage the relay." Hours passed in focused silence, broken only by the occasional beep or hum of machinery. The energy flows balanced, lights returned to normal, and the docking bays became functional again. Ships that had been stranded were now free to continue their journeys. When the work was done, Alex leaned back, wiping sweat from his forehead. Liara exhaled softly, her heart still racing from the tension. For a moment, they simply looked at each other, words unnecessary. They had accomplished something significant together. "You did well," Alex said finally, a small smile tugging at his lips. Liara tilted her head, considering. "You guided me well," she admitted. It was the first time she had acknowledged her own participation, without fear of criticism. "I did not expect to enjoy this," Alex chuckled. "Most people don't, but hands-on work is rewarding. You see immediate results. You feel it in your own hands, your own effort." She studied him carefully. "You are unlike anyone I have met," she said. There was no flattery, no politeness, only observation. "You do not seek praise, yet you command respect." Alex shrugged again. "I just do my job. The rest takes care of itself." Liara felt a strange warmth, a combination of respect and curiosity. She had spent her life surrounded by beings who were always calculating, always planning how to gain advantage. Alex did not play those games. He acted with purpose and integrity. That was rare. In the quiet that followed, Liara reached out and handed him a small device, a token she had received from her own people. It was simple, not valuable in a material sense, but symbolic. "For your help," she said softly. Alex accepted it without hesitation, examining it briefly. "Thank you," he said. His tone was sincere, free of ceremony or obligation. For a moment, Liara hesitated. She'd been trained to command respect through words, gestures, and presence. Yet here a human had earned it without any of that. She realized that courage, skill, and quiet confidence could sometimes speak louder than titles, uniforms, or appearances. Word of their collaboration spread through the station. Some diplomats frowned, whispering behind closed doors. A human working alongside a princess? One muttered. It is unusual. Others, however, watched with a mix of curiosity and admiration. Perhaps this human could achieve things no one else dared attempt. As the day ended, Liara returned to her observation lounge. She did not sit alone this time. She thought of Alex, of the way he had worked calmly under pressure, of the small but meaningful gestures that had marked him as different. She did not yet understand the depth of her feelings, only that she was intrigued and that intrigue was powerful. Alex, meanwhile, returned to the engineering bay to finalize minor repairs. He noticed others giving him subtle nods of approval, engineers, technicians, and even a few visiting diplomats. They had seen him work with the princess and realized that his quiet competence had earned a rare kind of recognition. Later, as stars streaked past the station windows and the hum of engines filled the corridors, Alex allowed himself a brief moment of reflection. He did not dwell on fame or status. What mattered was simple. He had helped, he had done his job, and in the process, he had formed a connection with someone remarkable. Liara, in her private quarters, touched the edge of a panel where the device she had given Alex rested. She smiled softly, almost to herself. For the first time in a long while, she felt that someone from another world, someone entirely different, could see her not as a princess, but as a person. The night on the station was calm, yet beneath the quiet sparks of change had begun. Two beings from different worlds had met, worked together, and discovered something unexpected. Mutual respect, shared courage, and the first hints of a friendship that could defy the conventions of the universe. And in that quiet moment, Liara realized that the human engineer had done more than fix circuits or stabilize docking bays. He had opened a door, one that no one else had dared approach, and shown her that connection, trust, and understanding could exist across worlds. In a station where rules and titles often dictated behavior, a simple act of collaboration had begun to rewrite the possibilities, and as the stars moved silently outside, both Liara and Alex knew in their own ways that this was only the beginning. The station had returned to its usual rhythm, with ships docking, crews moving through corridors, and the faint hum of machinery filling the air. Yet beneath the ordinary, subtle tensions lingered. Rumors of political disputes from the Zelthari Empire had reached the ears of some station residents, and a quiet unease floated among the diplomats. For Princess Liara, however, the unease was personal, and it was growing. Liara stood in a secluded corner of the observation lounge, her hands lightly brushing the smooth surface of the table before her. Her mind raced. Though she had managed to appear calm and composed, the truth was that she faced a challenge her people had never confronted: a growing rift in the Empire's political factions. Some of her advisors feared that collaborating with other species would weaken Zelthari influence, while others argued it was the only way to survive in an increasingly interconnected galaxy. Her gaze drifted to the stars outside the observation window. She longed for clarity, for guidance that did not come from tradition or protocol. It was then that her thoughts turned to Alex Rains, the human engineer who had, without words or ceremony, earned her attention and respect. If anyone could offer a fresh perspective, it might be him. Yet approaching him was no simple matter. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but they also had a tendency to speak freely. She could not afford careless words to leak to the wrong ears, and yet she had to act. Later that day, she found Alex in the engineering bay, repairing a malfunctioning subgrid. His hands moved swiftly and confidently, his attention focused entirely on the task. When he noticed her, he straightened slightly, giving her a quiet nod. "Princess," he said simply, without a trace of surprise. "Back so soon?" Liara studied him. "I need your advice," she said softly. Her words were cautious, measured, on a matter that requires discretion. Alex arched an eyebrow. "Discretion is my specialty," he said, a small grin forming. "What's the problem?" Liara hesitated. Then, in a low voice, she explained the political challenge facing her. Certain factions within her empire opposed her diplomatic mission, threatening to undermine her efforts to establish trade and cooperation with other species. A single misstep could cause lasting damage to her reputation and the fragile peace she was trying to maintain. Alex listened carefully, absorbing the information without interruption. He did not flinch at the weight of her words, nor did he offer empty reassurances. Instead, he asked questions, probing gently for details that could help him understand the situation fully. Have you considered approaching this through small, concrete actions? He suggested. Not speeches or declarations, but visible, tangible results that demonstrate value. People tend to trust what they can see working. Liara tilted her head, intrigued. You mean, show them results before attempting persuasion? Exactly, Alex replied. Start small, with actions that prove your approach works. Then build trust. That way, even skeptical factions have evidence they can't ignore. Liara felt a spark of hope. His advice was simple, practical, and grounded in logic, qualities she often found lacking in her court advisors. More importantly, it came from someone outside her world, free from the biases that clouded Zeltari judgment. Then we must act carefully, she said, her voice gaining confidence. I cannot risk exposure before we are ready. Alex nodded. I can help, he said. I know the station systems and I have experience working under pressure. If you want to demonstrate something tangible, I can make it happen. For the first time, Liara allowed herself a small smile. She had expected skepticism or hesitation. Instead, she found willingness and competence. Together, perhaps they could succeed where others might fail. Over the next several days, Liara and Alex worked in secret, coordinating small improvements across the station. They fixed energy conduits that had been neglected, recalibrated docking systems to improve efficiency, and implemented minor but meaningful upgrades to the station's transport logistics. Each action was carefully designed to be visible to the station's leadership, yet discreet enough not to draw unnecessary attention. Through this work, Liara began to see a different side of diplomacy, one grounded not in speeches or protocols, but in action, trust, and mutual respect. And through her eyes, Alex began to appreciate the subtle pressures and responsibilities of her position. He had always approached challenges as technical problems, solvable with logic and care. Now he saw that the human approach could complement the delicate art of diplomacy, bridging gaps that words alone could not. One evening, as they reviewed the results of their latest adjustments, Liara allowed herself a small unguarded moment. She laughed softly at a minor error in one of the calibrations, a mistake Alex had already corrected with ease. Alex looked at her in surprise. You laugh, he said quietly. I did not think Zeltari found humor in human errors. Liara's eyes sparkled. It is not the errors themselves, she explained. It is the way you handle them. Calmly, confidently, without drama. It is refreshing, Alex chuckled. I suppose that's one of the advantages of being human. We learn to deal with mistakes quickly or else we get stuck. Liara nodded thoughtfully. She had spent her life in a world where mistakes were punished or exploited. Here was someone who turned mistakes into opportunities, an approach that was both alien and inspiring. Their work continued, and so did the subtle bond between them. Words were sparse, but understanding grew. Liara found herself thinking of Alex's perspective, his methodical calm and his quiet confidence. Alex in turn admired her intelligence, her strategic mind, and the way she considered every possibility before acting. Yet not everyone on the station approved of their collaboration. A rival ambassador from another alien species had begun observing them closely. The ambassador whispered doubts, questioning the propriety of a human working so closely with a princess. It is unusual, he said to his aides. It may be harmless, but influence can be dangerous if placed in the wrong hands. Liara sensed the scrutiny but did not falter. She trusted Alex, and their results spoke for themselves. The improvements they implemented were visible, measurable, and undeniable. Slowly, others began to notice the effectiveness of their collaboration, even if they did not understand the depth of trust between the two. One night, after a long day of work, Liara and Alex returned to the observation lounge. The stars outside were brilliant, streaking past in slow, mesmerizing arcs. They sat side by side, not touching, not speaking, yet sharing a quiet sense of accomplishment. You make this look effortless, Liara said softly, breaking the silence. Alex shrugged. I've had practice, he replied, but it helps to have a good partner. Liara considered his words. I did not expect to find such reliability outside my own people, she admitted. Humans are full of surprises, Alex said with a small grin. Some good, some less so, but I try to focus on the good. For the first time, Liara felt truly at ease with someone from another world. There were no hidden agendas, No expectation of flattery, no pressure to perform. Just trust, understanding, and quiet competence. It was different, and she liked it. As the stars twinkled outside, she realized something profound. In Alex, she had found an ally, someone who could help her navigate challenges, both technical and political. But more than that, she had found a person who saw her not just as a princess but as someone capable, thoughtful, and worthy of respect. Alex, quietly observing her, felt a similar recognition. He had worked with leaders before, but few had approached him with the same openness and curiosity. Here was someone who understood that action and thoughtfulness could matter more than status or appearances. Together they could achieve things neither could alone. The night stretched on, and with it the understanding between them deepened. Neither spoke of future consequences or potential dangers. They simply acknowledged the bond forming between two very different beings, united by respect, trust, and shared purpose. In the quiet corners of the station, whispers of their collaboration began to circulate. Some envied it, some admired it, and some feared it. But the princess and the human engineer remained focused on their work, their connection growing steadily, quietly, and without the need for dramatic gestures. And in that subtle, unspoken way, they began to reshape the rules of interaction, not through words, politics, or commands, but through competence, courage, and understanding. It was a beginning, and beginnings, Liara realized, were sometimes the most important step of all. The space station had always seemed like a safe place to Princess Liara, a hub of diplomacy, trade, and calm order in the chaos of the galaxy. But safety was often an illusion, and today that illusion shattered. It began with a low vibration beneath her feet. At first she thought it was routine, ships docking or engines stabilizing, but then came the sudden blaring of alarms. Red lights flashed throughout the station, accompanied by a harsh mechanical voice announcing a security breach in the central docking bay. Liara's heart skipped a beat. Her instincts told her this was no ordinary malfunction. Something or someone was trying to harm the station. She immediately realized the danger. With her aboard, she was a target. She moved quickly through the corridors, her mind calculating escape routes, security protocols, and potential hazards. But before she could reach a safe zone, she encountered a familiar figure. Alex Rains, already at a junction, assessing the emergency with the calm precision that had first caught her attention. "Alex," she called, urgency creeping into her voice. "What's happening?" He didn't answer immediately. His eyes scanned the readouts on his portable display. "We've got intruders in the docking bay," he said finally. "Unidentified ships bypassed security. They're targeting this section, possibly trying to reach you." Liara's stomach tightened. She had faced threats before, but rarely had anyone been so close, so unexpected. She knew that panic would cloud judgment, and panic could be deadly. She needed guidance, and Alex, as always, remained steady. "Stay close," he said almost gently. "I know a safer route through the maintenance tunnels. We can get to a secure area, then handle the situation from there." She nodded, silently grateful. For the first time, she felt her safety depended not on guards or status, but on a human engineer's knowledge and courage. They moved quickly, weaving through the corridors, avoiding the main thoroughfares now overrun with panic-stricken residents. The tunnels were narrow, dimly lit, and filled with the faint hum of machinery. It would have been claustrophobic under normal circumstances, but the urgency sharpened Liara's senses. She followed Alex without hesitation, trusting his instincts completely. "Do you think they know I'm here?" she asked quietly. Alex shook his head. "Not yet. If we move fast, we can stay ahead of them. But we need to act carefully. One wrong move and it could get worse." As they approached the docking bay, a sudden explosion rocked the corridor ahead. Sparks flew and the lights flickered, throwing shadows against the walls. Liara instinctively ducked behind a panel, but Alex remained calm. "Stay down," he ordered. "I'll get us through this." He moved swiftly, using his knowledge of the station's design to navigate shortcuts and control panels. With practiced hands, he rerouted power, opened emergency doors, and created barriers that slowed the intruder's advance. Liara watched in awe as the human worked with speed, precision, and courage. His mind focused entirely on keeping them safe. One of the intruders, a figure clad in black armor with glowing red visors, appeared at the far end of the corridor, aiming a weapon. Liara froze, fear gripping her for a moment, but Alex acted instantly. "Move," he shouted. He threw a portable shield device in front of them, creating a barrier of energy that absorbed the first blast. Sparks flew, but they were unharmed. Without hesitation, Alex grabbed Liara's hand and pulled her toward a side exit he had already unlocked. They emerged into a control chamber overlooking the docking bay. From this vantage point, they could see several unauthorized ships attempting to dock aggressively. Security drones were engaging them, but the intruders were prepared, moving faster than expected. "We need to stop them from reaching the central hub," Alex said, already assessing the station's controls. "I can disable the docking clamps, but I'll need you to help me stabilize the energy flow." "It's risky, but it's our best chance." Liara nodded. Her heart pounded, but she trusted Alex completely. She moved to the panel, following his instructions carefully. "Turn this knob slowly," he said. "Good. Now adjust the power relays. Yes, exactly like that." Together they worked in tense synchrony. The intruders fired intermittently, but the chamber's reinforced walls held. Alex's calm voice guided her, steadying her nerves even as chaos unfolded below. Liara realized that trust was not blind. It was built on observation, understanding, and shared effort. Minutes felt like hours. Every adjustment, every decision mattered. One miscalculation could end in disaster. Yet Alex remained focused, his hands moving swiftly, his mind anticipating the intruder's next moves. Liara, for her part, followed his lead, using her sharp intelligence and growing confidence to support his actions. Finally, the docking clamps disengaged, preventing the intruders from securing their ships. The energy barriers stabilized, trapping the enemy ships in a temporary containment field. Security drones moved in to neutralize the threat. Liara exhaled, relief washing over her. For the first time, she allowed herself to acknowledge the depth of her gratitude and admiration. Alex had not only saved her, but he had done so with skill, courage, and unwavering calm. You saved us," she said softly. Alex shook his head. "We saved the station," he replied. "You helped too. You followed instructions perfectly, and that made all the difference." Liara studied him closely. Her mind raced with emotions she had not anticipated. Respect, admiration, trust, and something more subtle, something warm that grew in her chest every time she realized how much she relied on this human. The intruders were contained. The immediate danger passed, but the tension remained. Liara knew that this was only the beginning. Someone had targeted the station, and their motives had involved her directly. The threat was far from over. Alex noticed her thoughts and placed a steady hand on her shoulder. Not controlling, not demanding, but reassuring. "You're safe now," he said simply. "We handled it, and we'll handle whatever comes next, together." Liara felt a strange sense of calm. In the midst of danger, she had discovered something unexpected. Trust. Trust in someone from another world, someone who had no obligation to her beyond choice, skill, and courage. And in that trust, she found strength. The station's security team soon arrived to secure the docking bay and escort the intruders to containment. Liara and Alex reported the sequence of events to the station commander, who nodded with approval, impressed by their quick thinking and effective teamwork. "You two were remarkable," the commander said. "Few could have managed such a situation without casualties." Alex shrugged modestly. "Just doing what needed to be done," he said. Liara's gaze lingered on him. She had seen courage before, but rarely with such humility. He had acted not for recognition, not for reward, but because it was the right thing to do. As the station returned to a semblance of normalcy, Liara and Alex found themselves alone for a brief moment. The corridor was quiet, the red emergency lights fading to their usual soft glow. Liara turned to him, her voice quiet but firm. "Alex," she said, "I trust you. More than anyone I have met outside my people. Today proved that." Alex looked at her, a faint smile on his face. "And I trust you," he replied. "You stayed calm, followed instructions, and never panicked. That makes all the difference." For a moment, words were enough, but Liara realized that trust, once tested and proven, was stronger than any title or protocol. She had faced danger, and she had faced it alongside someone who respected her intelligence and capability, and in that shared experience, a bond was forged that neither politics nor fear could break. Later, in the observation lounge, Liara reflected on the day's events. She had confronted a threat that could have ended disastrously, and yet she had survived, because she had trusted Alex, and because he had trusted her. It was a lesson she would not forget. As for Alex, he returned to the engineering bay, checking systems and ensuring no residual problems remained. Yet his thoughts lingered on Liara. She was more than a princess or a diplomat. She was intelligent, brave, and capable, and in facing danger together, he realized that their partnership had grown beyond mere professional collaboration. It had become something rare and meaningful. The stars outside twinkled as the station slowly resumed its rhythm. Ships moved in and out, lives continued, and yet for two beings from different worlds the day had changed everything. Danger had revealed character, courage had forged trust, and in the quiet moments afterward, an unspoken connection blossomed. And as Liara and Alex prepared for whatever challenges lay ahead, they knew one truth. Together they were stronger, braver, and capable of facing dangers neither could confront alone. In a universe full of uncertainty, that knowledge was more valuable than any weapon or strategy. The station had returned to its usual rhythm, but for Princess Liara, life felt different. The past days had been filled with challenges, from technical emergencies to covert attacks, and through it all, one constant had remained. Alex Rains, the human engineer who had acted with courage, skill, and unwavering calm. Liara stood in the observation lounge, gazing out at the stars. Ships moved gracefully through space, docking and departing, leaving trails of light that seemed to stretch endlessly. Her thoughts wandered, not to diplomacy or duty or protocol, but to the human beside her. His presence had changed something fundamental in her view of the galaxy. Alex entered quietly, carrying a small toolkit. He gave her a brief nod. "Morning, Princess. How's the view today?" Liara turned, a small smile forming on her face. "Better now that you are here," she said softly. He raised an eyebrow but did not respond with words. Instead, he set the toolkit down and moved to the window, joining her in silence. The quiet companionship had become comfortable, almost natural. Neither needed to speak. Both understood the bond that had formed. After a moment, Liara spoke. "Alex, I have a proposition for you." Alex turned to her, curious. "I'm listening." "I am to return to my home world soon," she explained. "There are diplomatic missions that require my presence, but I would like you to come with me, not as a servant or an assistant, but as an equal. Your skills, your calm judgment, and your courage, they are invaluable, and I trust you more than anyone I have met outside my people." Alex blinked, caught off guard. "You want me to travel with you? On a diplomatic mission?" Liara nodded. "Yes, you have earned it. Your presence would send a message to my people and to others. That collaboration and trust between species are possible." Alex considered her words carefully. He had spent his life as an engineer, solving problems, repairing machinery, and ensuring systems ran smoothly. Diplomacy was not his world, yet the invitation felt meaningful, a recognition of his abilities and his integrity. I accept," he said finally, a quiet determination in his voice. "If you trust me, I will do my best." Liara's eyes lit up. "Thank you, Alex. This means more than you know." Preparations began immediately. Liara's staff ensured that travel arrangements were secure, while Alex assisted with technical checks on her shuttle. The process was thorough, precise, and methodical. Every system was examined, every contingency planned. Alex worked quietly, efficiently, ensuring that nothing would go wrong. Liara watched him with admiration, noting how seamlessly he combined skill, calm, and foresight. When the day of departure arrived, the station gathered to witness an unusual sight, a human and a Zelthari princess boarding a diplomatic shuttle together. Whispers spread through the crowd, some skeptical, some impressed, some genuinely curious. Few had ever seen such a collaboration, and fewer still had imagined it would be possible. Alex and Liara stood side by side as the shuttle lifted off. The engines hummed softly, carrying them away from the station and into the vast expanse of stars. Liara glanced at Alex. "Do you feel nervous?" she asked. He shook his head. "No, excited maybe, but I know we'll manage whatever comes our way," she smiled. "You are remarkable, Alex. I hope your people realize it someday." He returned her smile with quiet humility. "I only try to do what's right. That's all anyone can do." As the shuttle traveled through space, they discussed the mission ahead. Liara explained the political landscape of her home world, the factions and the stakes. Alex listened carefully, asking practical questions about logistics, energy systems, and communication networks. Together, they began to plan not just for immediate challenges, but for the long-term success of her diplomatic efforts. Their collaboration was seamless. Liara offered insight, perspective, and strategy. Alex provided technical expertise, problem-solving skills, and a calm, rational approach to uncertainty. The combination was powerful, proving that the meeting of different worlds could produce something extraordinary. During moments of quiet, they shared stories, Liara of her childhood among stars and courtly halls, Alex of his training and experiences across human colonies. Through these exchanges, understanding deepened. Liara discovered a human perspective she had never imagined, one of resilience, practicality, and ingenuity. Alex discovered that beneath royal protocol lay a being capable of compassion, curiosity, and subtle humor. As they approached Liara's home system, a new challenge emerged. Political rivals had learned of her journey and attempted to intercept the shuttle with a small fleet. The sensors detected the incoming ships, their intentions unmistakable. Liara's heart raced, but Alex remained composed. "Do not worry," he said, examining the controls. "We can handle this." Liara trusted him. With his guidance, she made calculated maneuvers, adjusting shields, rerouting power, and preparing decoys. Alex coordinated every system, predicting the rival ships' responses and ensuring the shuttle remained safe. Minutes passed with tense precision. Then, just as the rivals attempted to close in, a clever diversion engineered by Alex forced them to disengage. The shuttle continued toward its destination without damage, a testament to their combined skills and trust. Upon arrival, Liara was greeted by her advisors and officials. Their expressions were a mix of surprise and respect as they noted Alex's presence, not as a servant but as a trusted partner. Liara presented him formally, explaining his contributions and the success of their journey. Murmurs spread through the assembly. Some still doubted a human's role, but many could not deny the evidence of competence, courage, and intelligence. Liara turned to Alex privately, her eyes reflecting genuine gratitude. "You have proven yourself beyond measure, not only to me but to everyone here. You have shown that humans are capable of greatness not just in machines but in thought, action, and courage." Alex smiled humbly. "I only did what was necessary. You made it easy to succeed by trusting me." Together they continued the diplomatic mission, combining skill, intelligence, and trust. Alex's human ingenuity complemented Liara's strategic insight, creating solutions that no single species could have achieved alone. Slowly, skepticism turned to respect, and respect grew into admiration. During quiet evenings, away from the formalities of politics, Liara and Alex would return to the observation deck. They spoke little, but the silence was comfortable. They shared glances, small smiles, and the unspoken understanding that their partnership was rare and meaningful. Through their journey, Liara's people began to see the value of collaboration. Humans were no longer outsiders, they were allies capable of courage, intelligence, and loyalty. And Alex, once just an engineer on a distant station, became a symbol of humanity's potential to bridge worlds, earn trust, and inspire change. As days turned to weeks, and weeks into months, Liara and Alex faced challenges, solved problems, and built bridges between species. Each task, each decision, each small act of courage strengthened their bond and highlighted the truth that had guided their journey from the start. Humans, through ingenuity, courage, and integrity, could achieve greatness not just alone, but in partnership with others. Finally, one quiet evening, as the twin suns of Liara's homeworld set against the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant hues of gold and crimson, she turned to Alex. "This is just the beginning," she said softly. Alex looked at her. The warmth of the setting suns reflected in his eyes. "I know," he replied, "and I will be ready for whatever comes next." Liara smiled, a rare, unguarded smile, and extended her hand. Alex took it without hesitation. No words were necessary. They had faced danger, proven themselves, and discovered trust, courage, and understanding across worlds. Together, they were ready to step into the future, leaving behind fear, doubt, and limitations imposed by tradition. The stars above seemed to shine brighter, as if acknowledging the bond between two beings from very different worlds. And as Liara and Alex stood side by side, ready to face new adventures, One truth remained clear. Greatness was not defined by species, title, or origin, but by courage, wisdom, and the willingness to act with integrity. In that moment, across the vast expanse of space, a human engineer and an alien princess proved that trust, skill, and courage could bridge galaxies, inspire hope, and change the course of history. And their journey, though already remarkable, was only just beginning.